Hi folks. Now I was hoping to upload a video sooner than this, but I haven't been well, so that's why the slight delay. Now to be honest, I don't know if I'll ever sort out my schedule to allow for more frequent uploads. Time seems to have sped up and there doesn't seem to be enough hours in a day anymore. Have you felt that lately? No sooner am I getting up in the morning than I'm getting ready for bed, and the day has just been a blur. Creepy, huh? Retirement is no bore for me, I can tell you that much. Now, since I started this channel a few years ago, the whole emphasis has changed from a general look at different disturbing aspects of this world, such as the systemic corruption found within politics and associated government agencies, for example, to a more specific focus on the prison planet hypothesis, postulated in different ways by various groups, both current and historical, only framed in different ways depending on the general belief system. The prison planet theory can include many variations that are derived from different beliefs, but the main premise is that planet Earth is run as a prison, the details of which can change depending on the particular group expounding the specific theory. Now, this can range from the Gnostic view of creation, where it is believed the demiurge, or Yaldabaoth, created this evil inversion of the true reality, trapping us within this hell on earth existence, to simulation theory and its many branches, to the more modern proposition that we are trapped here on earth and forced to reincarnate by an ET presence. And through advanced technology and propaganda, we are being reduced to a population of unquestioning zombies. Now, this transition begins with us being a highly expanded consciousness with knowledge to match, to the sleepwalker mentality we humans seem to have inherited in this inverted existence. The contrast couldn't be greater. The variations behind the prison planet hypothesis may differ, but the reality is the same. Now, it's no secret that I believe this hypothesis to be close to the truth, whatever the specifics behind the scenes. And the various aspects of the different cultural myths suggest different ways of describing basically the same thing: a prison where our freedoms are restricted, the details depending on how advanced the civilization is and the level of technology supporting it, for example. Now, this is basically what we see in the early texts like the Bible or the Sumerian tablets when talking of beginnings, God, or creation myths. ETs and their technology would obviously be seen as gods, for example. But whatever the mythos behind the reality, the results are the same: restriction and control. As part of my learning process, several years ago, I stumbled across the subject and science of remote viewing. And during the intervening years, I have been impressed enough to take various remote viewing projects very seriously, because the results of the many blind remote viewing sessions were so accurate in describing the target, which is made known following the reveal, of course. And so I have been tracking a couple of remote viewing groups, namely the Future Forecasting Group and the Farsight Institute. Now, a couple of the main players within the Future Forecasting Group, a more recent organization, back in the day also did some projects for Farsight. So there is a connection there. Courtney and the Farsight Institute were largely responsible for helping me formulate and solidify my stand on the prison planet theory. And so I have a great amount of respect for him and the Institute. Dick Allgeier of the Future Forecasting Group has also gained a lot of admiration from me, also resulting from his impressive past remote viewing projects, mostly done, by the way, for Farsight back in the day. Now, I haven't seen much of his current work within future forecasting except the free stuff on YouTube. Obviously, they remain impressive, I've used one or two in my own videos. This is why I have certain questions regarding something Dick has recently said on his channel. Because it makes me wonder if there is a minor war going on between different members of the two remote viewing groups, namely Dick and Courtney. The two viewpoints in question are so diametrically opposed to each other, I thought it worth my while to briefly halt my look at the cabal and their nefarious plans for this planet, to take a quick detour and see what is maybe going on with Courtney and Dick, if anything. It might be nothing, just me reading between the lines. But for the sake of clarity, and because I respect both Dick and Courtney, well, let's have a little gander, maybe gossip, shall we? Because, well, I'm the grumpy grandpa. Remote viewers cannot just remote view a subject out of impulse or personal curiosity. For credibility, and more importantly, accuracy, remote viewing must be done blind. In other words, the remote viewer can't know what he or she is perceiving. Otherwise, all kinds of imaginative thoughts could seep through, contaminating the process. Imagination would almost certainly take over, and you would not be able to trust the perceptions coming through. So during projects, they are not told what the target is. Now, if you are skeptical of remote viewing, and there is nothing wrong with that, I'm sometimes still a little skeptical myself, and I'll outline one of my problems a little later on. But if you are a total skeptic, check out this short clip.
A Roman Catholic priest has administered the last sacraments of the church to the president. That sacrament was administered shortly before 1 o'clock.
It feels like they become calm, they become mindfulness, everything's all right, everything's brighter.
This project, almost by accident, allows us to use remote viewing to address the afterlife issue. And that is arguably the ultimate question.
Throughout time, humans have wondered about an enigma that each of us will ultimately face. What happens when our physical bodies die? Does consciousness continue? Where do we go?
This project was one of the most interesting I have ever worked. Not only did I get to experience the JFK assassination from very close up, I also, for the very first time in all my remote viewing history, managed to follow a life as he transitioned through the death experience and to something else beyond.
In the course of a documented blind-controlled remote viewing project recorded live on camera, remote viewer Daz Smith followed an event to its transformative conclusion, a stream in consciousness that allowed him to glimpse into the afterlife, the moment that John F. Kennedy died. Daz Smith is a web designer and graphic artist who lives in Somerset, England. For 2 decades, he has explored human consciousness using a technique known as remote viewing. Daz publishes a magazine that chronicles this amazing human skill. He has written books on the subject, and he has taken part in scientific studies and public presentations that demonstrate remote viewing. This is the story of how he followed John F. Kennedy at his moment of death.
It's almost like you can see time in slow motion there for a short period, only a few seconds.
No remote viewer sets out intentionally with a conscious decision to seek out such a target. Remote viewing is always conducted blind, meaning that when he sits down to start working, the viewer has absolutely no knowledge of the target at hand. The viewer can only follow the target that is given to him.
Remote viewing is a trainable mental procedure that was originally developed by the United States military and used for espionage purposes. We at Farsight are civilian, and we use these procedures or methods that are derivative of those original military methodologies to train remote viewers to transfer perceptual information across time and space in complete violation of the classical laws of physics.
We always work these targets blind, and that comes with some problems from the remote viewer, because during the remote viewing session there's a part of you internally that's always questioning the data that you get. It's always asking questions and trying to come up with a solution. We call this analytical overlays, and what we do is we move that to the side and we try to get past that. But there are always nagging questions that come up in your mind as remote viewers, and it's with time and experience that you manage to put these to one side a little bit better and to move on to almost ignore them. But ignoring is not the right word really, because within these guesses are great pieces of information, not always correct, but good information anyway. So we just put them to one side and move on.
Remote viewing is a term coined in the late 1970s. It was developed and used by the U.S. military as a secret intelligence gathering tool, but the phenomena itself is actually as old as human consciousness.
Remote viewing really tells us a lot about what it means to be human. First of all, it tells us that we really don't understand human psychology almost at all. We're composite beings. Obviously, since remote viewing can work, a person extends beyond time and space already. And that when the physical body dies, obviously that element of us that is extending through time and space is still there. So the 5 physical senses, hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell, are not the limits of what it is to perceive something as a human. So what we really are learning about what it means to be human is that the physical orientation that mainstream science currently has about human existence, human life, is really just the beginning. So the window that we have to better understand the total human condition starts with the acknowledgement that the remote viewing phenomenon is real.
Now, I regard Daz Smith as one of the greatest when it comes to remote viewing. Courtney often claims that the remote viewers of the Farsight Institute are among the best in the world, and I think they are. But sometimes he leaves out the preposition among and just says the best in the world. And I often cringe when he does that, because I can tell you that Daz is up there with the very best. Just my humble opinion, of course. Farsight's remote viewers are very good, but Daz Smith and Dick Allgeier have an advantage. They have many years of experience behind them, which just might give them an edge. Now, not so long ago, Dick said something that made me raise an eyebrow.
No, it's not a prison planet. Hi there, crypto fans. Hi there, remote viewing fans. Dick Allgeier here in the studio at Ethereum Place. Another beautiful day in Hawaii with a New Year's post for you. We're on the cusp of 2025, and I want to talk about this notion that, oh, we're trapped in a prison planet. Where did this idea come from? The idea that our souls are trapped in this awful planet and that we can't escape, and that it's a prison planet. This is part science fiction, part New Age flapdoodle, part ufology. It's been around for quite a while. It goes back to the science fiction of Philip K. Dick, some of his writings. There was an author named Ellis Silver who wrote a book, Humans Are Not From Earth, and he claims the fact that we get sunburn shows that we were put here against our will, apparently. There are elements of Buddhism in this, and there are elements of New Age bullshit and just buy my book flapdoodle. So, but people believe this. Oh, we're in a prison planet. How do we get out of this trap? All right, according to the story, our souls are trapped, that there are these very powerful discorporate entities who are controlling our souls, And at the time of our death, these powerful, more powerful than us, discorporate entities somehow fool us into recycling our souls back into prison planet Earth. Okay, and this is where ufology comes in, because according to the story, there are bad aliens. The bad aliens are helping perpetuate this soul trap, but there are good aliens, and if we only awake to the reality of UFOs and we raise our consciousness high enough so that we can telepathically communicate with the good aliens, they'll help rescue us from this soul trap. Man. Okay, so the story goes, we are more powerful souls than we realize. We've been dumbed down, and we need to wake up and realize how powerful we are. And once the masses rise up, we're going to wake up and we're going to be able to undo this soul trap. Now, how do they claim that they know all of this? Some claim it's based on remote viewing data. I'm a pretty good remote viewer. I've been in this higher levels of the civilian remote viewing world for almost 28 years now. And I work with very good remote viewers. And I'm here to tell you that I don't know any remote viewers who have the skill, the cognition, the ability, the discernment, or any targeteers or taskers that, how would you write a target queue that would put a remote viewer on target to discern that our souls are somehow trapped here on Earth by higher incorporate or discorporate entities. It just is beyond reason. I would say to these people, let's see you prove your remote viewing ability on something that is a little more validatable. Like, for example, can I give you a target that is the Brooklyn Bridge under double-blind conditions, and will you have the remote viewing ability to say, there's a waterway with a landmass here and a landmass here, and there's a structure that goes from one side to the other. Oh, and it's the Brooklyn Bridge. Show me that, and then we'll start edging into the anomalous world of soul traps. But if you're a beginning remote viewer, don't jump right to the UFOs and the soul traps, please.
Now, this totally surprised me, considering Courtney is also very firm in his belief that this is a prison planet. Here he is, emphasizing it.
What I am about to tell you and show you is probably the most astounding thing that you may have ever been told in your entire life. Initially, I expect that very few will believe it or even try to consider it. It will sound too outlandish or over the top for most people. But whatever you do with this information, whether you believe it or not, at least for myself, know that after looking at the accumulation of data collected at Farsight over a great many years, I am certain it is true. A picture has gradually emerged that seems as undeniable as it is astounding. Earth has long been a planet that has been operated as a prison, and I mean this literally, not as a metaphor for something else. People who live here were mostly dumped here from somewhere else, from other planets on other star systems within our own galaxy, and possibly some star systems in other nearby galaxies. They get dumped here by being born here. They lose all their memories of who they were in the past, where they came from, who their families are and were, and they don't remember the property that they owned that was taken from them.
He does not know who he is, who he was. This dude is lost. Like, he started to calm down and remember stuff, but then when that electricity happened, it's like it tossed him out.
Everyone is processed in a way that erases all such memories. And the key to running this prison has always been from the beginning to suppress all knowledge of every prisoner's past.
And it doesn't feel like he remembers who he was or who he used to be. It feels like a blank slate now, like there's no substance to him.
And when people die on Earth, a technique was established to involuntarily recycle them back into another life on this planet, memory-free, so that they could never leave. Dying offers no escape from this place.
I sense numbness and booming sounds and lots of roaring like an explosion happened, and there's lots of loud noises and chaos and shaking, like a rumble, shaking, and just strong energetics being placed upon the structure. There's lots of electricity, and frequency sounds are coming from something. There's huge amounts of shaking. And pain. And screaming.
While it is impossible to show you everything related to the prison planet idea in only one video, we can manageably focus on the method used to erase people's memories after they die. It is a process that is so cruel, so barbaric, and yet so unbelievable, it is best to show you rather than tell you. I will ask you to be patient as I step you through how it is done. Any hope of escaping from this prison will depend on understanding the workings of the death traps.
One of these guys are absolutely not nice. Like, the other two are almost neutral, but more bad than good. But this one guy, like, he's got this triangular-ish shape. He's not nice at all. He's mean. He's bad. He's bad. Very cunning and bad. He's bad energy, mean, not nice.
Specifically, the subject just can't remember things, so he's going in a loop. It's a continuous loop of being in a specific place and in a specific event and reliving that memory over and over and over again.
I just hear a lot of loud noises and shouting, and it just sounds like constant screaming and yelling all the time. Like, it's like someone is constantly being tortured here. It sounds like hell.
Kind of like a person who just has amnesia and they're trying their best to remember something that they try to forget, or they completely always forget, or they can't control that they're forgetting, so they try to remember over and over and over and over again.
Okay, after death we have the magnetic draw towards pathways or doorways, an electroshock experience, and finally a state of amnesia. It also seems as if false memories may be inserted into the subjects at that point, a clean slate. Why would a prison be set up to do this? Well, it all begins with an understanding that it is impossible to kill a soul.
They created this to demolish his larger spiritual self because he was powerful? Can this be stopped?
There is no such thing as capital punishment on the level of a soul. So if a society wants to get rid of someone that they don't want around, you can't just kill the person. The only way to really get rid of the person is to dump the person onto a planet with a soul recycler system, one that eradicates the individual's memories so that the person does not come back. Then one could let such a person get caught up in the recycler system for thousands of years.
It feels like they're not in control of their mental state anymore. Someone or something is forcing them to relive these experiences. So they just feel like tortured souls.
How hard will it be to convince many people that such death traps even exist when they don't have any memories of anything before their current lives?
And he just feels like a zombie. He just feels like...
If the society acknowledges anything about remote viewing or the extraterrestrials, then the entire house of cards is in danger of collapsing. Once you acknowledge the existence of the extraterrestrials, then the next question is to ask, what have they been doing all this time? And what is our history in relation to their history?
And they picked apart the things that made him feel good and calm and created this false environment that they knew he'd go towards, and then just darkness. And now he's lost and at war with himself and with his ex-life. With darkness. Like, none of that is fair. That's not fair.
This means that if humans are to ever break out of this prison, they have to rely on themselves to know what is real and what is not real. They can't simply wait to be rescued. No one is coming to rescue us. There is no cavalry. We start dismantling the prison system by waking up, by remembering who we really are, who we were, and who we need to become, one person at a time.
It almost seems like the gloves might be coming off pretty soon. No, I don't believe it will come to that. Neither do I think there is animosity between them. They are not made that way. But the question remains, why the huge discrepancy? Now, one of the obvious possible answers is that Dick has never done a remote viewing session on the details surrounding the prison planet hypothesis, or specifically to see if it's true or not. As I explained, he couldn't do this of his own accord. Someone else must guide the project who knows the subject. Now, I don't know if this is the case for sure. I'm just assuming this might be the case. And let's be clear, Dick's view of the world comes from someone who is reasonably well off and has enjoyed a relatively good and easy life. So he might be somewhat biased in his worldview. And the same goes for the rest of us on the opposite side, of course, who have had bad experiences. So we might see things as a prison more easily. Now, it's obvious that many people's earthly experiences have been favourable. The extremely rich, for example, who live in relative luxury. But this doesn't happen in every lifetime. It also seems Dick had a lot of adverse comments after his first video, and so goes on to explain his position more fully in a second.
Well, another day at the Prison Planet. Hi there, crypto fans. Hi there, remote viewing fans. Hi there, woo fans. Dick Allgaier here. Another beautiful day. It's Ethereum Place in beautiful Hawaii, not a prison planet. I want to talk a little bit more about this prison planet hypothesis that I did a segment yesterday, and it got a lot of comments. So I want to not exactly respond, but I want to go one step further. I don't buy that it's a prison planet, but it is, I would call it more of a petri dish. So if we look at planet Earth as a petri dish, an environment where life was introduced as an experiment to watch how it would grow and progress. Yeah, that makes us a little more than pieces of bacteria in a cultured medium, but I'm sorry, that's kind of the way it is. The Earth is in effect a botanical garden, and it was even referred to in the Bible as the Garden of Eden. So it was a den, and they had different dens, A den, B den, C den, and E den. And we flourished in Eden, and there is a guard of Eden. So it is the Garden of Eden. So yeah, we're in a garden. There is a fence. Somebody is taking care of this place. If you want to call that a prison planet, you can certainly call it that. I don't choose to. I look at it more like, I don't consider myself a prisoner. I find myself to be more of a grand experiment, and it's a very interesting experiment. Now, you're here and you have choices in this life that will impact your life. That's what you need to know. You do have decision space, and you can learn and grow and have an amazing life within this little experiment in Petri dish Earth. For me, I've always been curious. I've always been on a quest for knowledge. I try to be kind and generous. So that has served me pretty well. In my profession as a journalist, that I found that because of my natural curiosity and my quest for knowledge. So I found a job where I could go out every day and learn something and then tell people about it, and they would pay me. So that worked very good. If you choose to be a victim, then yes, you can call it a prison planet. I don't consider myself a prisoner. I consider myself part of an amazing experiment. So I'm an experimental test subject reporting in with the data. All right. There are two illusions within this reality. One illusion is time, the other illusion is ego. So time is consciousness observing, and time is bounded by the environment that the consciousness is embedded in. So there's really no time outside of this physical existence, not as we know it. And ego is also another illusion, because you're a piece of a greater soul essence that's placed into a body, and people think, well, I'm an individual soul. I have all this great power. It's my soul. I command it. I have power over it. Well, do you now? Actually, you are part of the greater soul essence. You're part of a greater thing. You're a piece of it. You come here, you have this experience, and then you go back to your true essence. So the bottom line here is you have control over your time here. You can make the best out of your life, and you can have an amazing life. Try to be curious, try to gain knowledge, and by all means be kind and be generous. That'll serve you well.
Now, we must remember that remote viewing is not guaranteed to be 100% correct. Mistakes can and have been made. And likewise, the received perceptions which are interpreted can also be misleading or just plain wrong, depending on the mindset of the interviewer. That's the person interacting with the viewer themselves. So there is nothing cut and dried about this. But what helps is when more than one viewer sees the same thing from a blind perspective. Now, there are several difficulties I have with some of the details the remote viewers gave out during the Death Trap sessions. One specifically stands out, which is that they describe a kind of torture taking place during the mind wipe process. Now, my problem with this is that this is happening after death, and the subject doesn't have a body able to feel pain.
Just strong energetics being placed upon the structure. There's lots of electricity and frequency sounds are coming from something. There's huge amounts of shaking. And pain. And screaming.
So what's going on here? Are the subjects feeling pain? Or do the perceptions just give that impression? And all that's being perceived is a great confusion in the subject under observation. Now, this is just something I must figure out for myself, because this is how what's left of my brain works. It can be a little too detailed for its own good sometimes. In spite of Dick's best efforts, I remain convinced we are trapped in a prison-like reality. Just look around you. I think the evidence is overwhelming. And I also think Courtney is correct when he argues that our only hope of escape is for the details of this prison to get out to the Mukaos so they can become informed. Well, those who are capable of seeing it, of course. Now, is this going to happen? Well, I guess we just have to wait and see. Until the next time.